Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, which is Explore Yourself, Banking and General Knowledge, etc. Memoir of my banking journey by Mr. V.H. Ramakrishnan, retired General Manager of Bank of India. Episode number 29. The chapter My Experiences as a Branch Manager is continuing. The link of earlier episodes is available in the description section. My experiences as a branch manager. Welcome to Madurai. Sometime in November 1976, I received a communication from regional office informing me that I have been selected as a member of the interview panel for clerks and that I have to go to Madurai. The head of the panel was Mr. G. Thiagarajan, fondly called as GT, manager of Madurai branch. I knew him very well. He belonged to the previous generation of bankers who were masters in field operations. Another member was Mr. T. Satyanarayana, who was a faculty member of the Regional Training College at Chennai. I knew Satyanarayana very well. He retired as Deputy General Manager and was also the Zonal Manager of Andhra Pradesh at Hyderabad. In 1976, a new method for selection for clerical posts was introduced. The bank conducted a test for those who had applied and then decided to call for interview for all those who passed. It was not restricted to three or four times the number of vacancies. This became a laborious process. A number of panels were appointed for various centers. It took us 4 weeks or so to complete the interviews in Madurai. Almost 60 to 70 candidates per day were interviewed. Those days we were entitled for a daily halting allowance of rupees 22.5 per day. Within that we had to manage our room rent and meals, boarding and lodging. These entitlements were changed only after 1980. Even in those days it was difficult to manage within this amount. Compare this with allowance with my entitlement to travel by air. Satyanarayana and I decided to take one double room in a lodge. A lodge is a place where only rooms are given on rent. There were no restaurants, not even coffee would be available. A room boy was supposed to be available to get you coffee or tea. Calling bell system would not work. You had to come to the corridor and shout his name. A special feature about Madurai, in any hotel the quality of coffee would be good. Luckily our lodge was just opposite the famous college house of the hotel famous for its coffee and snacks. My father had grown up in Madurai and I had heard him praise the coffee of college house. So Satya and I used to have coffee and breakfast from college house and then would go to the bank. GT would take care of our lunch. In fact, the monotonous job of interviews was made bright when we discussed what to order for lunch. GT was a very good host. Of course, the bill was paid by Bank of India. He would also order some light snacks at 4 p.m. Night dinner was at our cost. Madurai was famous for its idli kadais, idli shops at the night. There were quite a few idli shops which would have open only after 6 p.m. and would close after midnight. Main menu would be idlis. A few had a couple of more items like dosas, pongal, etc. They were cheap and of good quality. With all this, we used to manage within our entitlement. As many of you might have known, the great attraction of Madurai is the temple in a square. These are outer squares, like the blocks in US cities. In Madurai, it is square after square. Each square will be known by a particular name. For example, the streets abutting the temple are known as South Chitrai Street, West Chitrai Street, North Chitrai Street, and East Chitrai Street. Thus, many streets have the names of East, West, etc. preceding their name. I would also record here the love and affection shown by my colleagues. K. Ramaswamy, manager Sivakasi branch, came all the way to Madurai and took me to the famous Palani temple. Joseph Raj was our agricultural officer at Madurai. He fixed an official inspection at Kodaikanal, lovely hill station, on a Sunday and took us along with him. Joseph Raj retired as a DGM, nice gestures which you always remember. A Tale of Two Friends. After I returned to Vellore, I received an invitation to attend the opening of the branch of a nationalized bank. I think it was Union Bank of India. It was to be inaugurated by Mr. G. Vishwanathan, minister in the government of Tamil Nadu. I think it was the AIADMK which was in power with M.G. Ramachandran as chief minister. Vishwanathan was my college mate in Loyola. Though he was 1 or 2 years senior to me, he used to participate in Tamil debates and elocution competitions. He was the secretary of the Tamil Association of the college. While writing about the programs on the blackboard, I once saw him writing my name as Ramakrishnan. He had Tamilized my name. He was also involved with DMK even as a student. We knew each other quite well, mainly because of our activities in Tamil Association. I had not kept in touch with him after I left the college in 1960. I attended the inauguration of Union Bank in 1977. Before I could reintroduce myself to him, Vishwanathan asked me in Tamil, Ramakrishnan, Eppadi Rangunga? How are you, Ramakrishnan? I was surprised that he could remember me after 16 years. He spoke for a few minutes. After a few years, he established an engineering college in Vellore and quit politics. Today, that engineering college has become a great and well-known university known as VIT, Vellore Institute of Technology. People from all over India came there to study and is rated as very high amongst the private engineering colleges. G. Vishwanathan is the chancellor. My only regret is that I did not keep in touch with him after meeting him at Vellore. That reminds me of another college mate. His name was Prahlad. Both of us were studying in pre-university at Loyola College, but in different sections. I was staying in Damodar Reddy Street in Thiagaraya Nagar. He was staying in Venkatanarayana Road. Our college was in Nungambakkam. We used to take the local train and get down at Mambalam station. From there, we used to walk together to Venkatanarayana Road. He was living in a big bungalow known as Lemon House. Story goes that his grandfather made a lot of money in lemon business and named his house as Lemon House. After saying bye to him, I used to walk to my house. This continued for 3 months. After that, my father shifted to a better house at Egmore. I lost touch with Prahlad after that. Then, sometime in the 90s, I read an article about the famous management guru C.K. Prahlad in the Hindu. First, I saw his photo and the face was familiar. Then I read the article. They had mentioned about Lala College and Lemon House. Then I was sure that it was the same Prahlad with whom I used to walk from the Marbalam station. C.K. Prahlad became famous for his bottom of the pyramid theory. Unfortunately, he died in 2010. After I took charge as GM International, I was asked by the bank to attend a conference, a meeting of the Indian diaspora at Singapore. Mr. Prahlad was one of the speakers. I met him after the speech and told him about our old association. Alas, he just nodded his head, but there was no recognition. He had moved on in life. Note: though not connected with Vellore, I thought I would mention this to show different human aspects. Some people have good long term memories and some do not have long term memories. People in research areas focus more on current projects and tend to lose old memories. So, nothing wrong with Mr. C.K. Prahlad. In fact, I feel proud that I was his college mate. Lessons I learned. First, one has to prepare well not only for appearing for an interview but also for conducting the interviews. Second, keep in touch with your school friends and college friends and other acquaintances. I knew one executive of our bank. He had a foreign assignment and was quite close to the people in Indian embassy. On return to India, he used to keep in touch with them by calling them and greeting them once in 6 months. This helped him and the bank a lot. Tailpiece. First, those days the only fast train to Delhi was Grand Trunk Express, popularly known as GT. Tamil Nadu Express was introduced much later. It used to leave from Chennai Central Station. In fact, all trains to north would leave from Chennai Central, and all trains going to south of Chennai used to leave from Chennai Egmore. Our own G. Thiagarajan was also known as GT. In his career, if I'm right, he never worked with other than in Tamil Nadu. So the joke was the only GT which left from Chennai Egmore was our GT. Second, when Mr. Kamraj was the chief minister of Tamil Nadu, a note was put up to him for some officers to go to US for studying town planning. He wrote on the file, no need to go to US, ask them to go to Madurai. 3. In those days, Bonvita Quiz Contest was a very popular program on the radio. The company also published books later containing the questions and answers. One of the members of the interview panel in Kerala used to hold the book and ask questions. Someone sent a complaint to the regional office. Then this practice was stopped. Chittor branch opening and crisis in the night. During my tenure at Vellore, I was asked to look after the opening of Chittor branch. It was opened in December 1976. Luckily, the premises was already identified by the regional office, and even furnishings were directly handled by them. Veror was the nearest branch to the proposed new branch. Those days, entire Andhra Pradesh was under the southern region. One of my assignments was to meet and invite the district collector to inaugurate the branch. One Mr. Rajaji, not connected with the great C. Rajagopalachari, who was also known as Rajaji, was the collector. After taking an appointment, I called on him. I knew his family background. His father was Professor Sri Ram of Jain College, Chennai. Rajaji had three sisters. One was Ramesh Kumari, an IAS officer. Another one was the famous gynecologist Lakshmi Kumari. The third was my batchmate in CA Revati Sriram. Those days, very few ladies qualified for CA. She was one of the early female entrants to the profession. With all this background in mind, I thought it would be an easy task to get his consent. How wrong I was. Rajaji was very nice and cordial. He told me that as a matter of principle, he does not accept any invitation for opening or inaugurating any function. He said that he had enough work to do and does not want to spend his time in attending such functions. He also explained that it was not any reflection on the bank. He was very firm. I thanked him and returned disappointed. I rang up the regional office and informed them. Somehow, Mr. Parameswaran was not inclined to call any politician. He said he would inaugurate the branch. Accordingly, we got the invitations printed. Regional Office Deputy Agricultural Officer S.G. Mohan Raman about a week before the opening to help us. Mohan Raman was very well known to me. He reported to me in 1969 or 70 when I was in charge of priority sector department, including agriculture. He was the first agri officer to report at Chennai. Very soft spoken and knowledgeable person. We were very close. I think he rose to become chief manager. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years back. He belonged to Chittor. I had even attended his marriage in Chittor. Mohan Raman was a great help in making the final arrangements. I remember the anxious moments we spent overseeing the installation of the cash safes as they had to be lifted to a height of about 10 feet. Mr. Gundu Rao was the manager designate. He could reach only 1 or 2 days before the opening. He came along with his wife and quickly fixed a portion of our house as his residence. Now we had one problem. Mr. Parameswaran was to come the previous night for the inauguration. We were told that he would come in his car, accompanied by Mr. N.V. Subramaniam, area manager. There was no good hotel in Chittor where they could stay. I had booked a room for me in an ordinary lodge. There was a famous confectionery called Nitrine, which was based in Chittor. I think they sold the company to Hershey a few years back. One of our contacts in Chittor told us that they had a good guest house. Gundu Rao managed to meet them with the local contact and booked 2 rooms. We were all waiting near the branch in the evening for the car to arrive from Chennai. It was 6:30. We had no idea as to when exactly the RM would reach. Now we had the first crisis. A person came from the Nitrin company and informed us that some top executives of their company were arriving and that guest house booking has been cancelled. Gundu Rao phoned the person who had promised the rooms. That person apologized and said it was beyond him. It was a tense moment. Then one of the well-wishers who was with us said the electricity board had a guest house. I think Mohan Ram and Gundurao rushed and booked the guest house. We heaved a sigh of relief without knowing that a second crisis was in the offing. The executives arrived around 8 p.m. We took them to the guest house. It was by the side of a power substation with huge transformers. The guest house was quite fine inside. Now came the second crisis. Mr. Parameswaran stepped into the room when near the bed, slightly lifted the corner of the bedspread and said, Ramakrishnan, I will not sleep here. Let us go to Vellore. I was dumbfounded. Then, as an obedient officer, I said, Yes, sir. I knew there was only one hotel in Vellore which had air-conditioned rooms. We did not have the phone number. Those days Google was not born. I called Mohan Raman and requested him to go to Vellore immediately in a taxi and book the rooms and return back to Chittor as he had a lot of work to do in the morning. Then we took Mr. Parameswaran and Mr. N.V. Subramaniam for dinner to Gundu Rao's house. Even though they had come only 2 days back, Mr. Gundu Rao took pains to prepare the dinner for the bosses. Now came a third mild crisis. Mr. N.V. Subramaniam suddenly told us just before dinner was to be served that he was to go to Sabarimala. He would not eat rice and would have liked to have tiffin if possible. Those who go to Sabarimala have to observe many such rules. Perhaps this was one of them. Well, our ladies have always a presence of mind. Mrs. Gundu Rao inquired whether she could prepare uppama. Upama is one thing which can be made ready within 10 minutes. Let me also clarify that MTR products were not introduced those days. NVA said that it would be fine. Mrs. Kundura rushed to the owner's house and borrowed rava and made a delicious upama within no time. Thus, the third crisis was overcome. After dinner, we left for Vellore in the RM's car. Good old ambassador. I was still tense about the accommodation in Vellore. After about an hour, we reached the hotel at Vellore. Thank God, two rooms were ready, neat and clean, taken care by Mohan Raman. Mr. Parameswaran was happy. Now I had a problem. It was already 11 p.m. I had no vehicle to go back to Chittor. I decided to go to my house even though my suitcase was lying in a lodge in Chittor. I could not communicate with my wife as there was no phone connection at home. I went and rang the bell. My wife was under the impression that I was in Chittor. She got scared by the knock at midnight, so she did not open the door immediately. I had to shout and tell her I was back. Then she opened the door carefully. I think she looked at my legs to make sure that it was not a ghost. Next morning, I woke up early. Now I had a different personal problem. I had only one shaving set, and that was in Chittor Lodge. I took bath and went to the hotel where the executives were staying with an unshaven face. We reached Chittor around 8:30 a.m. and the function was to start around 10 a.m. I handed over the bosses to Kundu Rao and whispered in his ears that I would be back within 15 minutes. Rushed to the lodge and had a quick shave and returned to the branch. The function went off very well with good attendance. After seeing off the guests, I returned to Vellore. The first thing I did after reaching Vellore was to buy a second set of shaving set. Lessons I learned. First, in organizing a function, we should be prepared to face unforeseen contingencies. Always have a plan B ready. Second, trying to find out from the secretaries of the executives about their personal preferences, food habits, etc. Tailpiece. First, Mr. A.K. Raghavan, who retired as GDM, was the manager of Madurai branch in the early 60s. One day he had to buy a train ticket for a personal journey urgently. He sent his sepoy to the railway station to buy the tickets. Those days you could buy the tickets only at the railway station. Everything was manual. One had to spend hours standing in the queue. Someone wrote an anonymous letter to the head office that Mr. Raghavan, AKR, was using the sepoy for personal work. Head office asked AKR for his comments. I am told that AKR replied on these lines: Yes, it is a fact that I sent my sepoy to the station to buy the tickets that is urgently required. If I had gone myself, I would have been away from the branch for 3 to 4 hours. I leave it to the head office to decide whose presence is more important to the branch. The head office quietly filed the papers. Second, once I was in the team to interview officers for promotion from scale 4 to 5. 1997 or so, Mr. G. Kathuria, the then chairman, was heading to the panel. We were in Hyderabad Center. In walked one of the candidates wearing black dhoti or trouser, black shirt. He was also barefooted with an unshaven face. It was Mr. Nagaraj or Nagaraju, who was the manager of Madras main branch. Mr. Kathuria asked him why he was dressed like that. He said he was to go to Sabrimala in the next 10 days or so. After the interview was over, I also explained to Mr. Kathuria about the strict code of conduct to be followed for going to Sabrimala. Nagaraj got his promotion. I admire the confidence of Nagaraj. Many had come in the full suit or at least with a tie. He took a risk and stood by his faith. Learning new things. I always believe that learning is a continuous process throughout our life. I did not hesitate to learn from a junior. At Bellore, I had to check the cash lodged in the safe every day. My way of counting the cash was like that of a layman. I used to admire the speed of with which Thanikachalam counted the cash. So I told Thanikachalam, my cashier, that he should teach me the techniques of counting the cash. When I used the term teach, he was embarrassed and protested. I told him that there was nothing wrong. Since he imparts with knowledge, he becomes a teacher. Anyway, he gladly taught me the techniques. He also told me that I need not count all notes in a bundle. I should count a few and then fold a note. Remember the number of notes counted and then ask the cashier to count the balance. The total should come to 100. This saved a lot of time. Again, continued this practice of learning from a junior even when I became a general manager. I was in charge of international and treasury departments. I was not hands on in charge of treasury. There was a DGM in charge of the treasury, which was located at 7080 Mahatma Gandhi Road. I was sitting at Express Stars. The DGM would send some proposal or reporting some complicated hedging operations, which was difficult to understand. I had never worked as a desk officer in treasury or forex department. So I would ask the DGM to send the officer who had prepared the note. One Mr. Raman, not S. Raman, a Scale 2 officer, would come. He was a brilliant officer, like M.K. Hariharan. He also did not seek promotion. Being a CA, I would try to understand everything in the form of debit and credit, so I would convert the content into debit and credit with this help. He would patiently explain to my satisfaction. Did I lock? I had the second key to the safe. One night after reaching home, I had a doubt whether I applied the second lock. I lost my sleep and was restless. That was the time then there was an incident in Bangalore. In one of the branches, the manager was taken from his house at night by the robbers to the bank to force him to open the safe. Now I wondered if Thanikachalam was forced by robbers to open the safe like that, it would open since I forgot to lock. After a sleepless night, I went to the office in the morning. To my relief, I found that I had applied the second lock was a lesson. From then on onwards, while applying the second lock, I would say in my mind three times, I'm locking. Continued this practice in Kenya also. Avoided chit chatting while locking the safe. Voorhees College and my grandfather. I'm going to deviate from banking to narrate a personal story connected with Voorhees College. This is one of the oldest colleges in Tamil Nadu, was an open at the end of 19th century. My grandfather, V. Ramakrishnan Iyer did his schooling in Tirunelveli district, South Tamil Nadu. He was a brilliant student and got a scholarship from Gauri's College to do his graduate course. He was also given hostel accommodation. He had a classmate and friend called Radhakrishnan. My grandfather had told me that Radhakrishnan was a quiet boy and that he would always be reading some book or other. When he was doing his graduation, there was a threat of an attack of plague in Vellore. The college decided to close down for a few days. The hostelers were told to vacate. My grandfather was a favorite student of one of the professors. The professor called my grandfather and told him that he would make available one of vacant bungalow for him to stay. He also advised him that he could choose three of his friends to stay with him. My grandfather chose Krishnan as one of the friends to stay with him. They all stayed together for about a month. After the plague position was under control, the college reopened. My grandfather graduated in 1903 and 1904. Thereafter, he went on to Trivandrum, now Tiruvananthapuram, to study law. Again, he had a scholarship. In those days, Padmanabhaswamy temple at Trivandrum used to provide free meals in the morning for poor students registered with them. My grandfather was one of such students who used to have his meals at the temple in the morning. Radhakrishnan went on to Madras Christian College for postgraduate course. The two friends lost touch with each other. My grandfather practiced as a lawyer in Madurai. Radhakrishnan became a famous person and was known as Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan and ultimately became the President of India. The story is not over. Dr. Radhakrishnan was the president during 1962 to 67. My grandfather was in his 70s. He expressed a desire to meet Dr. Radhakrishnan. He had not met him after he left the college. My uncle, father's brother, Mr. V.R. Sivaraman, was working as the managing director of Wheels India Limited, a unit of TVS Group. He was a very influential person in Chennai and was one of the VIPs. With all his contacts, he got an appointment for my grandfather to meet the president during his visit to Chennai. The secretary to the president had clearly stated that only 10 minutes would be given. We, the grandchildren, were all quite excited. Finally, the D-Day came. A day before, the barber was summoned home and my grandfather had a shave. He never visited a barber shop. He had his own razor. The barber would come home and give him the shave and haircut. On the D-Day, he put on a white dhoti and the shirt which had been washed and ironed by the dhobi. He also had one angavastram, upper cloth over the shirt. I went to my uncle's house in the morning to watch the historical event. He was to meet the president at about 11 a.m. at the latter's house at Edward Elliott's Road. I had seen the bungalow a number of times from outside. The road is now named as Dr. Radhakrishnan Salai. My grandfather left at 10:30 a.m. My uncle's house was only 10 minutes drive from the president's bungalow. So we expected our grandfather to return by 11:30 as the meeting was to last for only 10 minutes, but he came after 12 noon with a brig green. I anxiously inquired as to what happened. He said that the president remembered him very well. They started talking about their friends and about the his college life. After 10 minutes, when the secretary quietly entered the room, the president waved him off. They were together for 45 minutes. I was very happy for my grandfather, who was very close to me and had guided me at every stage till I passed my CA. Well, that is a different personal story. Lessons I learned. First, do not think that only seniors can teach you. You can also learn from your juniors. Need not be ashamed to admit your lack of knowledge. In fact, the juniors would be happy to share their knowledge and will feel proud of you and would not ridicule you. Second, do not indulge in chit chat while dealing with cash. Focus on locking the safe. Third, a touch conveys your feelings much better than your words. See tailpiece. Tailpiece. First, Dr. Radhakrishnan was appointed as our ambassador to the Soviet Union when Stalin was the president. Stalin was a tough person and people were scared of him. Dr. Radhakrishnan met him and while taking leave of him, he patted Stalin on the back. This became a sensational news in international cross circles. He treated Stalin as just another human being. It is said that a touch conveys more meaning than words. I had a personal experience. When I was in Delhi, we had a chief manager called MD Sharma. He was a very hard-working, excellent officer. After I came to head office as GM, I visited Delhi and for some other purpose, I visited New Delhi overseas branch. Mr. S.A. Bhatt was the DGM in charge. I saw a number of officers waiting at the reception. They were chief managers to be interviewed for promotion as AGM. I saw MD Sharma also waiting there. I went to him and patted him on his shoulder and wished him best of luck. I knew he was going through a rough patch at the time. Next day, he called me and told me that my action of patting him changed his depressed mood completely, boosted his confidence, and he did very well in the interview. Not only he became an AGM, he retired as a general manager. He is still in touch with me. Second, during 70s in one of the Madras city branches on a Saturday, the manager was talking to someone outside the branch around 3 p.m. He had told his second officer that he was going home and requested him to close and lock the branch. After some time, the second officer saw that the manager was outside and assumed that the manager would lock the branch. The second officer went home. After talking to his friend or customer, the manager also went home. The branch was open with none inside. The landlord, whose office was just by the side, saw the branch remaining open at 4 p.m. and went inside and saw there was no one. He knew the regional manager and rang him up. I do not tell you yet what happened afterward. Thereafter, pity is that the manager was a very good and painstaking officer. The chapter, My Experience as a Branch Manager, will continue. Thank you very much for your patience. Please to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel.